upbeat, quirky music starts and fades slightly to background. Hey there, fellow cat staff! Welcome back to the channel where we try to decode the tiny, furry enigmas that run our lives. So picture this. You're in the pet store, the cat food aisle. It's a wall of judgment, isn't it? Bags with pictures of majestic, wild-looking cats staring into your soul, silently asking, "Are you really going to feed me that cheap stuff with corn?" You see the magic words, grain-free. It's more expensive, the bag feels heavier with responsibility, and you think, yes, this is it. This is how I prove my love. You buy it, feeling like the best cat parent in the world. But what if I told you that well-intentioned choice might be based on a massive marketing myth? What if grain-free isn't always the healthier option? Today, we are diving deep into the great grain-free debate. Is it a health revolution, or one of the biggest marketing tricks ever played on loving pet owners? Stick around, because what you learn might just change what's for dinner at your house. First, tell me in the comments, what's the fanciest food your cat has ever turned its nose up at? So, how did we even get here? Why did grain suddenly become public enemy number one in the cat food world? Well, it's a classic case of trends trickling down. Not from a mountain stream, but from the human health and wellness industry. A few years ago, the gluten-free and paleo craze took over our lives. Suddenly, carbs were evil, and we all believed we should be eating like our caveman ancestors. Pet food marketers, who are absolute geniuses at tapping into our anxieties, saw a golden opportunity. They started asking, if grains are bad for you, aren't they bad for your pet too? They painted this beautiful picture of our domestic cats as tiny, untamed lions, who in the wild would never be caught nibbling on a stalk of wheat. They used words like ancestral, biologically appropriate, and wild. It makes perfect sense on the surface, right? Cats are carnivores after all. And just like that, an entire premium market was born, built on the idea that grains are just cheap, unhealthy fillers that have no place in your precious predator's diet. It was a brilliant move that made us all feel like we were making a more natural, loving choice. Let's start with the core argument, the one that built the entire grain-free empire. Cats are obligate carnivores. This is 100% true. It means their bodies are designed to get nutrients primarily from meat. They need high levels of protein, specific amino acids like taurine, and certain vitamins that are only found in animal tissue. If you try to feed your cat a vegan diet, you'd have a very sick kitty on your hands. The marketing narrative takes this fact and runs with it, suggesting that because cats are carnivores, they have absolutely no ability or need to digest carbohydrates like those found in grains. They want you to imagine your cat is a tiny wolf, and a wolf doesn't graze in a cornfield. It's a simple, powerful image. This forms the bedrock of the entire biologically appropriate argument that feeding a cat grains goes against its fundamental nature. It taps into our desire to provide the most natural life possible for our indoor hunters, whose most ferocious hunt of the day is often tracking the red dot from a laser pointer. It's a compelling story, but it's an oversimplification that leaves out some very important details about feline digestion and modern nutrition science. So, what about the big, bad filler myth? Marketers love to label ingredients like corn, wheat and rice as cheap fillers. The word itself sounds awful, doesn't it? It implies that manufacturers are just stuffing the bag with useless junk to cut costs, robbing your cat of precious nutrition. But let's put our thinking caps on. Is that really true? From a nutritional standpoint, a filler is an ingredient that adds bulk but provides zero nutritional value. And that's just not true for grains. Whole grains provide a ton of beneficial nutrients. They are a source of energy from carbohydrates. They contain essential amino acids. They're packed with vitamins and minerals. And they offer fiber, which is fantastic for digestive health. Think about it. A little bit of fiber can help with everything from hairballs to keeping your cat's bathroom habits regular. So calling grains fillers is a clever but misleading marketing tactic. They aren't just empty calories, They serve a purpose. The real conversation shouldn't be about whether grains are present, but about the quality and quantity of those grains in relation to the primary protein source. Okay, but what about allergies? This is another huge selling point for grain-free food. Is your cat itchy? Does he have an upset stomach? It must be the grains. The fear of food allergies is real, and it's a major driver for consumers seeking specialized diets. We see our cat scratching, and we immediately want to find the culprit and eliminate it. Grain-free foods are often presented as the hypoallergenic solution. Here's the kicker though. Actual grain allergies in cats are incredibly rare. Yes, they can happen, just like any food allergy, but they are far from the common menace they're made out to be. A multi-year study by the veterinary journal Veterinary Dermatology analysed hundreds of cases of feline food allergies. They found that the most common allergens for cats were beef, fish, and dairy. Corn was actually one of the least likely sources of an allergic reaction. So, while you're diligently avoiding rice, the real problem might be the tuna or chicken flavour your cat has been eating for years. Many owners switch to a grain-free food, see an improvement and credit the lack of grains, when in reality, the new food simply used a different protein source, like duck or rabbit, that their cat wasn't allergic to. So if the most common food allergens for our feline friends are actually beef, fish, and chicken, why did grains get such a bad rap? It's all about marketing simplicity. It's much easier to create a single, identifiable villain than to explain the complex nuances of individual food sensitivities. Grains are bad is a simple, memorable message. Your specific cat might be sensitive to the specific protein source in its current food, which could be one of several options, well, it's not a great slogan, is it? It doesn't fit neatly on a bag. Marketers identified an easy target. Grains were already being viewed with suspicion in human nutrition, so it was easy to transfer that distrust to the pet food world. This created a situation where countless cat owners are spending extra money on grain-free diets to solve a problem their cat probably doesn't even have, potentially overlooking the real source of their pet's discomfort. The lesson here is that if you truly suspect a food allergy, the answer isn't to just grab the first grain-free bag you see. The answer is to work with your vet to conduct a proper elimination diet to pinpoint the actual trigger ingredient. This leads us to the million-dollar question. If you take the grains out, what do you put in instead? A bag of cat food can't just be 100% meat dust. The kibble needs something to hold it together, to provide texture, and to offer certain nutrients. This is where grain-free foods introduce their own set of ingredients, often referred to as novel carbohydrates. Instead of corn, rice, or wheat, you'll see things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, peas, chickpeas, and lentils listed high up on the ingredient panel. On the surface, these sound fantastic, right? They sound like things we'd find at a trendy farmer's market. We eat them ourselves, so they must be healthy for our cats. This is another marketing win. These ingredients sound more natural and less processed than something like corn gluten meal. But are they actually a better nutritional choice for an obligate carnivore? It's crucial to remember that grain-free does not mean carbohydrate-free. In many cases, a grain-free kibble can have the same or even higher carbohydrate content than a food that includes grains. You've simply swapped one type of carb source for another. So, we've swapped grains for legumes and potatoes. Is this an upgrade? Not necessarily. Let's get a little nerdy for a second and talk about carbohydrates. Cats can digest carbohydrates, but their system is optimized for protein and fat. Their bodies lack a key enzyme in their saliva called amylase, which is what helps animals, like us, start breaking down starches in the mouth. Digestion of carbs for them starts later, in the small intestine. While they can handle carbs, a diet that is excessively high in them can be problematic. The issue with many grain-free foods is that ingredients like peas and potatoes are often used in very large quantities to make up for the absence of grains. Pea protein, in particular, is a common way for companies to boost the overall protein percentage on the label without adding more expensive meat. So you might see 35% protein on the bag and think you're getting a super high meat food, but a significant chunk of that protein could be coming from plants, which are less biologically available for a cat than animal-based proteins. It's a clever way to make the numbers look good, but it might not be delivering the type of nutrition your carnivore truly needs. Let's dig a little deeper into the carb conundrum with something called the glycemic index. Don't worry, this isn't high school biology class. I'll make it simple. The glycemic index is basically a measure of how quickly a food causes blood sugar levels to rise after it's eaten. High glycemic foods cause a rapid spike, while low glycemic foods cause a more gradual increase. Why does this matter for your cat? Well, some of the common replacements for grains, particularly potatoes, have a very high glycemic index. This means they can cause those sharp spikes in blood sugar. Over the long term, a diet that constantly causes these spikes can contribute to issues like insulin resistance and has been linked to the growing problem of feline obesity and diabetes. It's ironic because many people choose grain-free foods thinking they are a healthier, lower carb option to prevent exactly these kinds of problems. But in reality, a grain-free food loaded with potato starch could be managing your cat's blood sugar less effectively than a thoughtfully formulated food that includes a lower glycemic grain like barley or oats. It's a perfect example of how the marketing buzzword doesn't always match the nutritional reality. Now we need to talk about the big, scary topic that really brought this whole debate into the spotlight. It's a condition called dilated cardiomyopathy, or DCM. Put simply, DCM is a serious heart disease where the heart muscle becomes thin and weak, making it unable to pump blood effectively. It can lead to congestive heart failure and can be fatal. For a long time, DCM in cats was primarily linked to a deficiency in a crucial amino acid called taurine. That's why you see taurine supplemented on pretty much every cat food bag today. It solved the problem. But then, a few years ago, veterinarians started noticing a disturbing trend. They were seeing a new wave of DCM cases, but this time it was in cats and dogs eating very specific types of diets. And the overwhelming common denominator was that these pets were on diets where the primary ingredients were legumes like peas, lentils, or potatoes. In other words, they were on grain-free diets. This wasn't just a few isolated incidents. It was a pattern significant enough to get the attention of the FDA. This is the part of the story where the grain-free halo begins to look a little less shiny. The rising number of cases prompted the US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, to launch an official investigation in 2018. They began collecting and analysing reports from veterinarians and pet owners about cases of DCM. What they found was alarming. They released several public updates, and in one report, they named the 16 pet food brands most frequently associated with the reported DCM cases. The vast majority of these were grain-free formulas. The report specified that more than 90% of the reported diets were grain-free, and 93% of the reported diets contained peas and/or lentils. A smaller percentage contained potatoes. This was a bombshell for the pet food industry and for millions of pet owners who had been faithfully buying these expensive, supposedly superior foods. It's important to be clear. The FDA did not issue a recall, and they did not say definitively that these ingredients cause DCM. They announced a potential link and stressed that the investigation was complex and ongoing, but for the first time, there was a major federal agency raising a huge red flag, suggesting that these popular diets might be connected to a life-threatening disease. It completely changed the conversation around grain-free food. Now, it's really important that we talk about the difference between correlation and causation. This is a key point that often gets lost in panicked internet articles. Just because two things happen at the same time, in this case, cats eating grain-free diets and an uptick in DCM cases, doesn't automatically mean that one thing caused the other. The FDA investigation found a correlation, a potential link. They did not prove causation. There could be other factors involved. For example, maybe the way these legumes are processed affects nutrient absorption. Maybe it's a combination of specific ingredients. Maybe it has to do with the sourcing of certain vitamins. Researchers are still working hard to figure out the exact mechanism. So, does this mean you should panic and throw out your bag of grain-free food right this second? No, but it does mean we should be cautious. It means we should critically question the marketing that told us these diets were inherently superior and recognise that there is a potential, though not yet fully understood, risk associated with some of them. It's a call for awareness, not widespread panic. Let's circle back to that crucial amino acid I mentioned earlier, taurine. Taurine is absolutely non-negotiable for cats. Unlike dogs or humans, cats cannot synthesize their own taurine in sufficient amounts, so they must get it from their diet. It's found naturally in animal muscle tissue, especially the heart and liver. A lack of taurine leads directly to a host of severe health problems, including blindness from retinal degeneration and, you guessed it, dilated cardiomyopathy, DCM. This was discovered back in the 1980s, and since then, reputable pet food manufacturers have supplemented their foods with taurine to ensure cats get enough. So when this new wave of DCM cases appeared, the first thing researchers checked was the taurine levels in the food and in the affected animals. And this is where it gets complicated. Some of the affected cats had low taurine levels, but many did not. This suggests that the problem might not be a simple lack of taurine in the food itself. The leading theory is that something in these grain-free diets might be interfering with the cat's ability to absorb or process the taurine that's present. This is where the scientific detective work gets really interesting. The current leading hypothesis focuses on how high concentrations of legumes and pulses, peas, lentils, chickpeas, might be causing the problem. There are a few theories about how they might be doing this. One idea is that the high fibre content in these ingredients could be binding with taurine in the digestive tract, preventing it from being properly absorbed by the cat's body. So even if there's enough taurine in the food, it just passes right through without being used. Another theory points to the plant-based proteins, like pea protein, which are used to increase the protein percentage on the label. These plant proteins have a different amino acid profile than meat. They might be disrupting the complex process by which a cat's body uses taurine and its building blocks. It's not that peas are poisonous, but that formulating a diet with very high levels of these ingredients might have unintended nutritional consequences that science is only now beginning to understand. The focus of the investigation has centered on these BEG diets, boutique companies, exotic ingredients, and grain-free formulas. So after all this, are we saying that you should run out and buy the cheapest, most corn-filled food you can find? Absolutely not. The point isn't that grain-free is bad and grain-inclusive is good. It's way more nuanced than that. The quality of the ingredients matters immensely, whether it's a protein, a vegetable, or a grain. Not all grains are created equal. For instance, some nutritionists argue that corn, while providing energy, can be a less ideal grain for some cats due to its protein structure and potential for mycotoxin contamination if not sourced properly. On the other hand, grains like rice, oats, and barley are often considered excellent ingredients. They are highly digestible, provide a steady source of energy, and are very gentle on the digestive system. So, a well-formulated food that uses high-quality chicken as its first ingredient, followed by a sensible amount of brown rice and oats for fibre and energy, could be a much healthier choice for many cats than a grain-free food that relies heavily on potato and pea protein to meet its nutritional targets. It's about looking at the entire formula, not just fixating on one single ingredient. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Including some grains in a cat's diet can actually have several benefits, especially when we're talking about high-quality whole grains. First, they are an excellent and easily digestible source of energy, while cats are designed to get energy from protein and fat. Carbohydrates can provide a quick fuel source that spares the protein to be used for more important jobs, like building and repairing muscles and tissues. Second, and this is a big one, is fibre. The soluble and insoluble fibre found in grains like oats and barley is fantastic for your cat's digestive health. It helps to regulate bowel movements, which can prevent both constipation and diarrhea. And we've all cleaned a litter box that shows signs of trouble. Fibre also helps your cat feel full, which can be a huge help in weight management for our slightly chunkier companions. A little bit of the right grain can go a long way in creating a balanced and complete meal that supports their whole system, from their energy levels to their gut health. So if we shouldn't be looking for the grain-free label, what should we be looking for? It's time to become a savvy pet food label detective. The single most important thing to look at is the first ingredient. Since ingredients are listed by weight, the first one is the most plentiful. You want to see a specific, named animal protein source listed first. Something like deboned chicken, salmon, or lamb. Be wary of vague terms like meat byproducts or poultry meal right at the top. While meals and byproducts aren't necessarily evil, they can be very nutrient-dense, a whole meat source, as the first ingredient is generally a sign of a higher quality food. After that first ingredient, look at the rest of the list. Does it look balanced? Are you seeing whole foods and quality grains? Or a long list of fractions and fillers like pea fibre, potato protein, and tapioca starch high up on the list? A good diet is built around the protein, not around what it's excluding. Let's do a quick crash course in decoding that ingredient list, because it can feel like reading a foreign language. After you've identified that strong, named protein source at the top, scan the next 4 or 5 ingredients. This is the core of the food. If you see chicken, chicken meal, brown rice, oatmeal, that paints a very different picture than peas, lentils, chicken meal, potato starch. In the first example, the primary components are clearly animal-based, with some sensible grains. In the second, the food is heavily based on legumes, with the animal protein playing a smaller role, even if the total protein percentage on the bag looks high. Also, watch out for a trick called ingredient splitting. This is when a manufacturer takes a single ingredient, like peas, and lists it as multiple items like peas, pea protein, and pea fibre. This pushes each individual item further down the list, making it seem like there's less of it than there actually is. If you were to add them all up, that legume might actually be the true first ingredient. It's a sneaky way to make the meat content seem higher than it is. Beyond the ingredient list, you need to be aware of the powerful marketing language designed to appeal to your emotions. You'll see words like ancestral, instinctive, wild, or biologically appropriate. These terms have no official regulatory definition in the pet food industry. They are purely marketing buzzwords. They are designed to sell you that story of your cat being a tiny lion, not to accurately describe the nutritional science behind the food. A food labelled ancestral might be packed with potatoes and peas, ingredients a wild cat would certainly never eat. Don't let the pretty packaging and epic-sounding names fool you. Similarly, pictures of fresh chicken and vibrant vegetables on the bag can be misleading. The actual contents are a processed kibble. Always, always, always turn the bag over and trust the ingredient list and the guaranteed analysis panel over the pretty marketing on the front. The front of the bag is for selling. The back of the bag is for informing. After all this information, you might be feeling more confused than when we started. And that's okay. Feline nutrition is a complex science that is constantly evolving. So, what is the single most important piece of advice I can give you? It's simple. Talk to your vet. Your veterinarian is your #1 resource. They are not influenced by marketing trends. They stay up to date on the latest nutritional research, including all the ongoing developments with the FDA and DCM. They know your cat as an individual, its age, its breed, its activity level, its specific health history. They can help you cut through all the noise and recommend a diet that is truly appropriate for your unique pet. Don't be afraid to bring the bag of your current food with you, or a photo of the ingredient list, and have an open conversation. They can help you assess if it's a good choice or suggest better alternatives that fit your budget and your cat's needs. An internet video is a great starting point, but a personalised recommendation from a medical professional is the gold standard. So let's bring it all home. What's the final verdict in the great grain-free showdown? The truth is, grain-free itself is not the enemy, but it's also not the hero it was made out to be. It was a marketing concept that exploded in popularity by simplifying a complex topic and preying on our desire to do the best for our pets. The real issue isn't the absence of grain, it's the high concentration of legumes, pulses, and potatoes that are used to replace them in many of these formulas, and the potential still being researched linked to serious health issues like DCM. The takeaway is this: we need to stop thinking in terms of grain-free versus grain-inclusive, and start thinking in terms of overall quality, balance, and formulation. A well-made food with high-quality grains is very likely a better choice than a poorly formulated grain-free food packed with pea protein. It's time to look past the buzzwords and become empowered, educated consumers for the sake of our furry family members. Music swells slightly and becomes more heartfelt. So there you have it. Now you know the real story behind that grain-free label. It's not about being a bad pet parent for choosing it. We've all been swayed by clever marketing because we love these little weirdos more than anything. The most important thing is that now you have the knowledge to look at that food aisle, not with anxiety but with confidence. You know what to look for: a named protein first, a balanced ingredient list, and a formula that makes sense. And you know who to trust most: your vet. Because at the end of the day, whether they're screaming for food at 5 a.m, meticulously knocking things off the counter, or purring on your chest, all we want is to give them the longest, healthiest, happiest lives possible. And that starts in their food bowl. Thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss our next deep dive, and share it with a friend who's still stuck in the cat food aisle. For my final question, what is the one piece of cat advice you wish you had known sooner? Let's help each other out in the comments below. Stay curious and give your cat a cuddle from me.